All right. So, um, whenever, so right now, you're learning to program, you're coding, and everyone here is starting to develop their own coding style. And as you are coding and learning to code, you're like you're starting to ask yourself, well, you're starting to see other people's code and be like, oh, I see you put a space there. I see some person uses spaces. Some people tab over. Some people put an entire method on a single line. Indentation might be a little different between individuals. But there is a coding standard across developers and languages as well. So if you think about like cars, so the likelihood that you're able to jump into one car brand and then just jump into another car from another car brand and start driving with, you're pretty much highly confident you'll be able to do that. Even like if you go to like Europe and jump into like an exclusive like European car manufacturer like Renault or some other brand, Opel or whatever, you're more likely not going to be able to drive that car because the entire auto industry have come to a standard of how cars should be built, but like they should all probably have steering wheels, they all have speedometers, they all have transmissions that you shift either from the column or right next to you on the I forgot what that's called, but so there is a standard of cars as far as how you drive them. There is also a standard of how your code should look. Every company that you go to might have a different flavor or like a very small differences based off of the company. But if you're working with you and somebody else, some other developer, it's just you two building an application, you might keep your own coding styles and it's not that big of a deal. But when you go to an organization that has tens, hundreds, if not thousands of engineers, and if every single one of those engineers brought their own unique coding style as far as like tabs versus spaces and their own opinions on how things should look, the code base would look really dirty. Like every file would look kind of different. All the code would look a little bit differently. There wouldn't be any best practices. But that's not the case because developers have come up with a specific coding standard, and they apply these specific applications or libraries or modules to ensure that everyone's code conforms to their company's standard. So some of y'all are actively using some of these tools already. Has anybody heard of a linter before?
Yeah, but I don't know how to explain it.
Draws your attention to certain areas in your code.
Yep. So if you like import something wrong or maybe like a variable is underlined for some reason, and you hover over that variable, it's like, hey, this method or this variable is defined, but it's never used. Like that's the linter saying, hey, like there's no point in having this variable here if it's never used, so just delete it, kind of thing, or do something with it. So with that, let's talk about linters and trying to get our code to conform to a specific standard. That's actually let's go ahead and make a directory. All right, so I'm going to touch example.py and I'm going to code example.py. All right, so if I wanted to write a method, let's actually look at, we should probably just use school interface. So, let's use, I'm gonna grab a method like Roman numerals from Python. I'm just gonna grab that. Everyone remember Roman numerals? So I've got this method, Roman numerals, or to Roman, I'm importing math. Let's actually just run this. What is it? Print to Roman. And what does that take in? 999. If I were to Python example, it gives me the correct output. But let's see if I can make sure that, yeah, this logically looks right, but let's see if the way this code is written conforms to the correct standard. And in Python, the Python developers have created this module or library called Pylint. If I go to Pylint right here, this conforms to a specific coding standard. So it'll run through your code, make sure your code conforms to the correct standard. There's a bunch of other things it can do. It can actually detect errors in it, but there's other methods of detecting errors. And that's just through basic debugging. But it helps us to apply a specific coding standard. So with that, let's go ahead and install Pylint in this file. I know yesterday we talked about virtual environments, and I just want to use Pylint inside of this virtual environment. So can anybody tell me how to create a virtual environment?
Like Python-M.
Python-M.
VENV.
Yep, Python-make virtual environment. Now I can call this virtual environment whatever I want. And I like to just call it VENV. I'm creating a virtual environment, calling it VENV. All right. And if I list everything out, you can see this virtual environment directory has been created, and that's the name of what I created right here. So that's the name of my virtual environment. And now I can activate my virtual environment by going virtual or source, the name of my virtual environment, which is VENV, bin/activate. And now you can see I'm actively in my virtual environment because it says VENV, which is the name of my virtual environment. I can do pip list just to see what packages are installed inside of this bubble inside of my machine, inside of this virtual environment. And there's really not much. There's pip and this setup tools. So I'm going to do pip install Pylint to install this library. I'm going to clear, and I can do pip list again just to see what was installed. So Pylint also has all these other libraries in here as well. So all these other libraries, Pylint relies on all these other libraries to run. So I'm going to submit my code to, production, but I got to make sure that it conforms to my company's standards. So I'm going to run it through Pylint and make sure that this function is correct. So I can do run Pylint and then the name of this file, example.py, and it's going to send out a report, and it's got a lot. So notice how your code has been rated -2.14 out of 10. So it's not good. It gives you a little rating. So it's kind of like, all right, let's try to get the best rating we can get. All right. So, and it tells us specifically what is wrong with it. So we've got bad indentation, found 2 spaces, expected 4. So looks like I have a pretty bad habit of not using 4 spaces when dealing with Python. And that could be because my settings aren't correct. Because I thought I had some Python settings in here, but I guess not. So in order to fix that, I don't know if Pylint allows it, like if I this running Pylint, so you can read through the documentation. I'm not quite sure if Pylint will fix some of these errors for you. But what I'll need to do is go through and see. So on line 4, so I've got this error code, or this, it's not really an error code. This is like a, I forgot what W stands for. I think it's like I actually don't know. But I can fix this by just giving everything an additional 2 spaces. And this is going to take me a while. Whoop. All right. It looks like, did I just mess something up? Let's run this. Let's just make sure this still works. Oh. All right, I think that's right. So let's go ahead and run that again. So Pylint. All right, cool. So I cleaned up all the indentation errors, or not errors, but best practice. So everything should be 4 spaces instead of 2 spaces. So now my rating has gone up a little bit. So my previous run was negative 2.4 out of 10. So I increased my score by over almost 9 points. So now we have missing module docstring, missing module docstring. Now this this isn't, now this is more of a recommendation. Because yeah, so some companies might be like, hey, I don't like doc strings inside of my functions or inside of the file names, because your functions should be descriptive. When you're naming your functions, they should be descriptive enough where you don't need like a doc string to tell you what it is. So, but here it says missing module doc string. So up at the very top, and you can see what line that's at line 1 up here. What a doc string is that that thing right here where this will describe the module. 2 Roman module. You can like describe whatever this module is. Module description. All right. So I can clear that and run that again. So see, now that's cleared up a little bit. All right. So now it's missing a function or method doc string. So Python thinks, or this Pylint wants a doc string here as well inside of the 2 Roman method. So function or method description, converts numbers to a Roman numeral equivalent. I can't spell right now. So I can run that again. All right, but it's still saying missing module. Oh, did I move that all the way down? Dang it. Module description. So now if I run that again, all right. So now those are, I would say these aren't required. But for example, here, and like this isn't necessarily required. For example, the company I work for, they don't really believe in adding comments because they want you to describe what your code does based off of the variable names and the method names. But here it says line 12, 4 in, line 12, 4 in, variable name Arabic to Roman doesn't conform to the snake case naming style, invalid name. So in order to fix that, I can say to Roman, but let's see if that works. So here it says variable name Arabic to Roman doesn't conform to the snake case. Again, it's because I have that uppercase R like so. So undefined variable Arabic to Roman. So here it's got like an E for error because now it's like, hey, your code is actually error prone from a logic perspective. So it's got some linters, and that's what that when this is underlined. So this is from Chromix or a extension plugin from Pylint. So that's where this is like another linter that is actively looking at your code as you're writing it. All right. So let's run that again. So consider iterating with items. All right. Consider using dict items here. Where does it say that? So for Roman and Arabic to Roman items, maybe? Is that where it's saying on line 28? So, okay, so now it's actually giving me some suggestions on how I can. So dot items, I don't know what dot items does. So I'm just gonna print Roman. Let's see if this, maybe our code actually is gonna work or not work now because I'm using items. Yep, so items. So here I can actually look up like Python dictionary dot items. What does that do? So mark dot items.
Is it just a way to get the key and the value so you don't have to then make that variable on line 30?
Like right here.
Yeah,
So-
items, I think will take Roman and something. You end up getting both values from the key value pair.
Okay, so items. So that right here, like, so would it be?
I think I've seen as like key and value from whatever you're iterating over dot items. And then you can, I think you can use them that way.
So does it return a tuple
Instead
then?
of return a tuple.
All right, so if that returns a tuple for item, so would it be item at index 0? And then again, this is just a suggestion. Arabic. So then what was this Roman for Roman? So then, yeah, that'd be Instance of string. Numbers greater than Arabic. Or would that be? All right, cool. So that's one suggestion. Now you don't have to do that one, but just gives you like another example. So in here, again, now here it says unused import math. So I'm getting closer. I'm almost at a 10 out of 10. So I can go ahead and remove that math. Oop. Like that. And it says your code has been rated a 10 out of 10 previous. Great. So now my code is sufficient. I'm surprised it doesn't do anything here with that comment, but yeah, there we go. So you can run this on any of your files. So if I wanted to run that on like, you know, your school interface, it'll give specific suggestions like that. It'll tell you, let's do like another one. Let's go ahead, touch car.py. So like yesterday when we talked about code coverage.
Tom, your W stands for warning,
Warning, thank you. Awesome.
and your C that you had for the other one is convention.
Convention. Sweet. So convention, error, E for error, and warning. Thank you for that.
Yep.
All right. So this is from yesterday when we talked about code coverage, where we got take damage, wear and tear. We're importing random choice. Looks kind of good to me, but let's see if it actually conforms or if there's something that we can change. So car.py. So it's running that. So module name car doesn't conform to snake case naming style. What? Where does it say that? Oh, module name car. So like my file name car. Let's go ahead and can I even change that? Let's just touch car.py and then rm rf. Just delete that and then code car. Did not work. Oh, I messed up. There we go. So if I brought that over there, let's run this again. What the hell? Let's see. Oh, I'm an idiot. Touch car.py, rm rf car.py, list everything out. All right. All right, there we go. So it's running. All right, so it's missing those doc strings again at the very top. So if you want, you can add that, but this is module doc string. I can also using doc string for the class as well. So if I come all the way down over here, so like class description, car brands, and any defects, I don't know. Don't use this as a template of how to properly do a description. So it's saying missing function or method doc string. So again, doc strings for the functions. which, okay, I don't really care about as far as the conventions, but if I wanted to, I can say like take damage. Returns a random number between 1 or 0 and 2. I run that again. So I'm almost there, and it says, all right, line 19. Method could be a function, no self-use. All right. So what does this mean? It's saying this function really doesn't have like, it's ours recommendation. Like this literally just refactor. So this really just is just a function that returns a random number. It doesn't have anything to do specifically with this class. We're literally just wanting to return a number between 0 and 2. So if I like move this outside of the class, and then instead of self.where and run that, none unused argument self. So where's that 9? Oh, yep, there we go. Now it says too few public methods. So what that means is this class doesn't have enough methods in it, essentially, which is like, okay, whatever. Like that part is just like not that big of a deal. If I wanted to, I can create another method that does nothing, but that again, that's just a recommendation more so. But close enough. 9.17 out of 10. So yeah, so it will definitely give you recommendations on how to make your code conform to the standard. And here we go. There we go. And there's other
Is it required that you run it in a virtual environment, or can you install Pylint in your regular development environment?
you can install it globally if you'd like. And you can customize Pylint too. Like you can in a specific like settings file, you can tell it what to look at or what to omit. So if you don't want to have to tell you to, hey, add doc strings in here and everything, you don't have to. You can like customize it and configure Pylint to like, don't worry about this. Like if you see something, just don't even give me that doc string refactor or convention error, that convention code. But there's also other Pylint's not the only one. There's also, is it Flake 8? Flake 8's another one. So if I wanted to use Flake 8, it's similar to Pylint. It might do something different. So I can do Flake 8. What is it? car.py. So here it gives me other ones. Line 6. Expected 2 blank lines, found 1. I don't even know what that is. 2 blank lines. Yeah, I actually don't know what that means. 2, oh. That's probably because they want 2 lines in between. There we go. So Flake 8 doesn't give you a specific report like Pylint does. But yeah, there's other ones out there like Flake 8. Pylint's the most popular one. What is it? And if you want to read where is it? Pep 8, you can read the actual style guide for Python. You can read through indentation, tabs or spaces, maximum line length. Should I line break before or after binary operations? So you can read through what the best practices are for writing Python in here.
Do they all follow the same basic style guide to make their recommendations?
When you say who, like,
So like Flake 8 and Pylint, do they all follow Pep 8 style guide recommendations? Because
that's a good question. Yeah, they probably
there's
they-
not a standard recommendation for standard recommendations.
I'm sure there's a lot of crossover or a lot of things that overlap, like the main parts that overlap. Whereas like Pylint, they'll tell you like logical errors in your code, where like Flake 8 probably doesn't. So Pylint is like a more that's the standard, where Flake 8 probably has some additional things as from a style guide perspective, or they may not emphasize certain things, or they may emphasize other certain things. But just so you know, like every company will be a little bit different. So every company that has Python probably subscribes to a flavor of Pep 8. So it might not conform it 100% to this, but it'll conform a lot of it to it, and it might have each company might have their own unique style.
Does prettier work okay with Python or no?
I'm sorry?
Does prettier work okay with Python?
I do not know. I don't know. Like almost every language, I don't know if JavaScript does, but language has something similar to Pylint. Like literally just today at my company, they work in Ruby and Ruby on Rails, and they have one that's Pylint equivalent called RuboCop. It does exactly the same thing as what Pylint does, except you're able to have that linter update everything for you. Not everything, but instead of you going in and manually changing it, it'll change it for you to conform, which is kind of nice. So after I'm done, let's just say I'm done. I don't need to be in my virtual environment anymore. I can deactivate it and I'm out of my virtual environment. Any other questions about linting and conforming to a best practices and a coding style?